What is the dumbest thing you had to explain to someone? That the pizza place that I worked at sold pizza. The name of it was Pizza. Also one time a guy was ordering a cheese steak and said he wanted peppers. I said okay, we have hot, sweet, and green peppers, and asked him which he would like. He responded angry peppers. I do talk fast, so my words tend to blend together sometimes, but it took a good 2 minutes to explain that there was no such thing as an angry pepper, and that I was really saying and green peppers. A waitress once asked me if I wanted a soup or salad. I replied yes because I heard, "Do you want a super salad?" and figured it was like a supersized salad or something. No idea why the waitress ran with it instead of repeating herself, but she left and then came back with a soup. I asked where's my salad, and my husband got mad at me for it. English is not my first language, and it was my first time in the US, so I really struggled to understand the accent sometimes. English is my first language and I have done that at least twice. It's definitely not just you. I'm still pretty disappointed that I never got my super salad though. Pocahontas wasn't created by Disney. This dude was a history teacher. Pocahontas was a history teacher. Most Disney movies, especially the classics, are kid-friendly retellings of old fairy tales that were super not kid-friendly to begin with. Little Mermaid is an excellent example of this. The real ending is horrifying. Pocahontas died in England and is buried in a now parking lot in Gravesend. I'm amazed at the amount of people that don't know the original stories. I love every time I get to the gory parts. I'm further amazed by the number of people who think that original stories of most of these stories even exist. Most fairy tales are passed down through centuries of oral tradition, being changed and retold in dozens of different ways to suit the time and place of the telling. That when you watch YouTube videos it doesn't download into a file and corrupt Facebook, so you lose your password. Similarly, installing a video game from a retail CD-ROM and not even downloading a patch for it 6 months ago probably wasn't responsible for the plethora of viruses your computer mysteriously got right after you downloaded a dozen different Internet Explorer toolbars, animated cursor packs, and Bonzi Buddy. My friend accidentally watched a Russian YouTube video and thought it could download viruses. I've been around computers enough to know that this can't happen, but I've also been around computers enough to know that it might happen anyways. Well, it does download into a file, but it's very unlikely that it will corrupt Facebook in any way. I had to explain to a friend that Amish people know electricity exists and that they just didn't believe we should use it. I also had to tell her that we generate electricity in power plants and that it doesn't just float around in the air. Some Amish communities use electricity though. True, I should have said some choose not to use it. Hopefully, I won't ever have to use this talking point again. From what I understand, it's more accurate to say that the general Amish community sees a difference between what is acceptable at home for leisure and what is acceptable for work. So electronic farming equipment and the like is fine, but a television in your home is not. The only time I've ever seen an Amish person, they were on their cell phone. That whilst, yes, the UK is close to Spain, we call Germany Germany, and not Alemania, like they do in Spain. The fact other countries don't use the English version of this or other countries' names has always been interesting. Germany being Deutschland for example. The bizarre one is Cote d'Ivoire in Africa. Literally every other country has their name translated into English when spoken about in English, except for Cote d'Ivoire. If you try and call them Ivory Coast they will correct you and insist on the local spelling. So you have things like Google Maps, where Cote d'Ivoire is listed in the native language, but every other country on the map is listed with the English name. Alemania in English sounds like a beer festival. I lived in New Mexico and a lot of people think that isn't in the US. I lived in Washington DC and many times, people would hear that and say I love Seattle. And when it's Washington state, they always think it's DC or Seattle. Most of the state isn't Seattle. I live in the desert part. I used to live in Walla Walla and yeah basically no one knows Eastern War exists. I live in the desert part. I'm sorry. The desert part is the best part. I'm banished to the west side, and I hate it over here. My family is from the Grand Coulee area. I miss it over there. So do I, but I like the Seattle part more. That not everyone in the world eats turkey on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is also exclusive to the US. Did you tell her that? We do Thanksgiving in Canada too. Different date but the same idea. We usually have turkey. Yeah, I told her that. She was going on about how it's celebrated worldwide. I was in shock. We were in our 20s at the time. I don't know how she thought it was a worldwide holiday. Oh my god. I'm Jewish in America and I cannot count how many times people ask me if I celebrate it or what I'm going to do while everyone else is celebrating it. Just because you only have ever seen a duck in the water doesn't mean that ducks don't fly. She was 28 and didn't think that sloths were real either. I was 21 in college talking to a girl the same age in my class and she asked me to teach her the continents and where some very obvious countries are. She needed it for a religion course and claimed she was never taught it in her tiny middle of nowhere school. I found out this year that a narwhal was a real animal. I've met a lot of people that didn't know turkeys can fly or that they sleep in trees. TBF, I can understand thinking sloths might be made up. A group of us were talking about what our ancestors did in the world wars. It got to one particularly dumb guy and he said, I don't think my family goes back that far. Yes, his family just spawned into existence. I once told someone that my grandfather drove an ambulance in WWII. My brother was there to correct me. That was Ernest Hemingway. Tell your brother that was WWI. That was when the Allies could only afford one ambulance. By WWII they had two. Till the world couldn't spare more than one ambulance for the biggest war in history. That you can't land on the sun even at night. Or that it's a bad idea to put a screen door on a submarine. Our Kerbal space program is calling. Maybe I just need more radiators? I had to explain to a very grown-up woman that the lunar eclipse we were watching was not due to the fact that the sun had moved between the earth and the moon, since the sun doesn't move. Even if it moved, there wouldn't be enough space between earth and moon to fit, and see if it were to move, and there would be enough space between earth and the moon, we would all be roasted in her scenario. She finished school with top grades and is now a teacher. That I didn't literally want ham on my burger. A lot of people don't know that the meat is a style from Hamburg and a wiener is from Wien, Vienna. I thought a wiener was called a Frankfurter because it's from Frankfurt. I'm not an expert on the difference. When I lived in Germany I found the origin of where things come from. For example, the breed of dog Rottweiler comes from Rottweil, Germany. Never knew the city even existed. I can't wait for my vacation to Dobermann-Pinch, Germany. Did you try to order steamed hams? Must have been from upstate New York. It's not World War II. It's World War II. War never changes. It's like I'm in a really moom. Well, ain't that a kick in the head? Sorry. From now on it's World War II, since it's the greatest war name ever, and you are not allowed to correct people anymore. I feel like you could say World War II in conversation and people won't notice you said something weird. I had a kid in my 10th grade class really believe we had a World War III. Twice a month doesn't mean every 2 weeks. When I hear twice a month my mind automatically goes to every 2 weeks, though I guess using bi-weekly would be more concise. Bi-weekly you mean fortnightly? You a redcoat spy? Sounds like redcoat's vocabulary. Quick, go toss his tea into the harbor to see how he reacts. Bi-weekly you mean semi-weekly? JK, it's been so misused that they are now synonymous. I have heard bi-weekly used to describe twice in 1 week. Why you shouldn't sneeze into your hands. His reaction was, but it's easier. Okay. Makes no effort to cover the sneeze. Ahaha, pichu, fine mist settles over the landscape. Just power sneeze at the nearest person, wage a germ war against their very well-being. To be fair, I have to sneeze into my hands, because I'm always very snotty, and a lot comes when I sneeze, so it's impractical to explode snot all over the back of my wrist or my elbow. It's easier to just catch it in my hand and then go clean up. The different hemispheres have different seasons at the same time of the year. This is a strangely common thing. My wife, for example, how are you gaming with your Australian cousin? Shouldn't he be in school? Nah, he's on summer break. But didn't you get him that game for Christmas? Yes, but Christmas is in winter. Not down there, it isn't. Whoa. So he's on summer vacation? Yes, and Christmas is during summer vacation? Yes, so they don't, like, make snowmen and stuff? I should have told her to check her northern bias. Had to prove the existence of narwhals in high school. I thought it was a joke at first, but it turned out that person wasn't lying about them not being real. So you're saying they're not real? Are birds Serentia largeriphus don't exist, are narwhals really? I once overheard a grandmother exclaim a unicorn whale, while pointing to a plush narwhal, and the granddaughter, no older than 8, explained to her that it was a real animal. Apparently this is more common than I thought. That we couldn't accept a meal voucher from Planet Hollywood at Hard Rock Cafe, and no, it ain't the same thing. A long time ago I worked at a movie theater, and it was crazy how many people would just show up trying to use Fandango gift cards. They just couldn't get how we weren't Fandango, but you can use that card on your phone to get tickets. Similarly, Honda dealerships don't sell new Hyundais. Also that Japan and Korea are not the same thing. How CR cards work? The other person thought it was basically free money. It is if you're using someone else's CR card. Sadly, this is what happens when CR card companies hand out cards to unknowing and poor 18-year-olds. Free money if you die before you pay. I'm suddenly reminded of almost every sitcom from the 90s. As long as you pay your minimum each month you don't get charged interest, poor girl.